Hey, good morning, everybody out there. This is Coach Hager. I just wanted to let you know what's going on here. So I have with me a special guest today. I'm going to ask him some questions. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation and just some stuff to keep you engaged and interested and get to know some of the other people out in the world. Uh, so enjoy, and we'll see where this all goes. So I have with me today Patrick Hager. He is the head men's and women's cross country and track and field coach at Houghton College. He's also my brother, as you can probably tell if you haven't noticed already.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about Pat's life and his experiences and hopefully some things that might be interesting to you. So Pat, start us off here. What's going on in your life right now?
Probably a lot of the same thing a lot of people are going through right now, but we were joking, me and you yesterday about having some potentially free weekends here to go hiking or something like that. So it's kind of interesting to when you're used to being in the midst of a track season to, you know, try to figure out what to do when that's no longer a part of life, right? So um my wife is pregnant, as you know, and I've got a young 2-year-old son. So we're just having a lot of fun spending more time together now, going for hikes around town and trying to get outside when we can, and that sort of thing. So
Very cool. What's Houghton like right now with everything going on? I know it's a small town anyway.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people outside. I mean, it's a beautiful place to be when the weather is nice, and there's a lot of trails and just woods and just places to go like that. So like even yesterday, I went for a run on our cross country course, which is just across from campus, less than a mile from where I live. And I was doing a tempo of the 8K course. And honestly, there were just groups of people out there walking, which is not that normal. I mean, there's usually some people out there. It's a nice, beautiful area, but there were just two or three or four like groups of 5 or 6 people out there on the trails, and that was not normal. So it was good to see people out and about. Yeah.
Very cool. We're seeing the same thing in our neighborhood here. All sorts of people that are never outside, and every day now we go for runs and walks and see them all out there. So
Yeah.
very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, talk to me a little bit here about your past. So you're a runner and a cross country and track and field coach, but let's go back to the beginning here. What got you into running?
I always did a lot of sports, different things like that, but oddly enough, I mean, you got me into organized running. I mean, I guess I can't really remember going for any just structured runs, maybe here and there before we were shoveling gravel at Asbury Woods in the back of Dad's trailer. And I think that was either one you convinced me or I said, I'm going to do this for sure. And for some reason, I remember that in ninth grade doing track. So never was really into running before that. And I think I only really did it because I thought I might be pretty good at it. But that was the start. Ninth grade. I think just outdoor track was what we did then. So
Very cool. Very cool. And so I'm gonna kind of bookend things here. So you started way back in ninth grade, pretty young kid coming into it, but you just had a birthday here, and we're not getting any younger. Not that we're super old, but you're still going at it. You're still training hard. You're still running workouts. You mentioned being out on the course running an 8K tempo run here. Guys, we call that threshold. His tempo is pretty similar to our threshold run, if you're wondering there. So what's keeping you at it here all these years later and as you're getting older?
yeah, well, I guess as you just kind of said it, like with the birthday. I mean, I guess now we've run, me and you both, much longer than they haven't. You especially starting in seventh grade, so that's kind of interesting. Of looking at like almost 20 years, or for you 20 years of running pretty consistently. Um, yeah, I think it's. I was thinking about this the other day, and it was just a really interesting combination. I mean, obviously through high school and college, it's pretty easy when you're in a structured program and you've got people. But then obviously you and I started the Swift Racing Club after college, and that kept us going for even a number of years, just staying in touch via text threads and Google Docs with training. I don't know if you remember those, you know what I mean? Training cycles of putting your mileage on Google Docs and things. But it's an interesting combination of like competitiveness and a love for fitness. So like even if I wasn't running, I just love I'd be in the weight room or I'd be doing pickup, whatever, but running was a nice outlet to sort of also cover that. So, and as you know, I'm just a competitive person, just in anything I find, you can turn it into competition, which is good and bad for a lot of reasons. But so that's kind of kept me going. And then I think like, at Houghton here and at Messiah, to kind of turn into like a faith aspect of things. We hear our motto is excellence for the glory of God. And so like, as cliche as that sounds, it's like, if you're going to do something, you know what I mean? Do it as excellently as you can, and for me, I've always just found it fun. And I said, I'm not going to stop running competitively until it's not fun anymore for me. In which case I'll probably still keep running a little bit. But as I look at my like logs and mileage I've built up, I think over 27 or 28,000 miles since college, I almost just get competitive with that too, where I'm like, well, I got to keep going, and I want to stay at any point. I want to be able just to like go out there and be ready for a race in a few weeks, or go out there and be ready to do some sort of extreme. If you and I were like, hey, let's go down to PA and do a run hike, like, of a big trail, like I want to be able just to do that, and do it well, because that's just how I see it. So a little mumble jumbled, sorry, but that's a little bit of what's kept me going.
No, that's awesome. I think.
How about you on that one?
Well, like you said, I started back in seventh grade. I found a shirt the other day from 1996, from a race in middle school, and honestly, it's a lot the same. I think, especially when I was coaching at Messiah and being able to hop into workouts with those guys, some of it was I just always wanted to know that I could hop into those workouts. There was a little bit of that competitiveness with me that I wanted to see if I could, still make a varsity team on the college side, even when I was older, and things like that. I'll admit that the last few years, they've been a little bit tougher, and
Yeah.
you guys, that whole group of guys we had kind of all bailed on Mechanicsburg after 2014, 2015, and so it got a little bit tougher to keep things up when everybody's spread out. Um, I'd say now I'm feeling less competitive about my running, but trying to make sure that it's still out there and doing some things that keep me in shape. We talked a little bit. I've been in the weight room more than probably I have in, gosh, 10, 15 years now,
Yeah.
which has been good for me overall. But, I think there's something cool about still lining up for cross country races at age 35 and things like that. So um, I like what you said there. It's still got to be fun. And I think sometimes even our younger viewers here today, or later on might not realize that there's got to be a joy to it, that you really have to have a passion and feel like it's something that you enjoy doing, that when you lace up your shoes, that you want to go do that it's not a forced issue.
Yeah. Well, I'll add real quick that like for a few years there, when I was 27, 28, like, or maybe I guess after that, and I don't know, slowed down a little bit, which probably wasn't really true, but I had stopped racing as much, and I sort of took a dip in mileage, which was just what I needed at the time. I was still running and still doing workouts, but not racing as much. And some of that was because I was like, well, if I can't PR, I don't want to race. And then the past several years, I've been like, oh my gosh, like a lot of these races, there's just such a good energy to. Like you go to a 5K, I mean, even just your most random 5K, or even maybe a trail event, which tends to get a little bit of a different crew. Even yet, like the energy at those events is just awesome. Like, and whether you're running fast or just putting out a good effort, like the past few years, I've done a couple of races, trail races, in up near Rochester and in between there, and like the times didn't really matter. It was just fun. And then afterwards, everyone's just excited, talking about their race, food, awards, whatever. And you're just like, especially if you get a really nice day, it's just awesome. So that's another thing that I've realized, like, why stop doing those events if it's fun? Because like, I don't want to be 50 and be like, I didn't really train as hard as I could to do well in some of that stuff while I could, so that's part of it too.
No, it's true. I mean, I recognize it. Like I ran some PRs at age 30, and I think it took me a couple years to realize that um, maybe running PRs wasn't the only thing important to me. And now that I'm starting to fully embrace that, you're right. Going to some of these races and seeing the energy and seeing people out there who are just given it what they have, times, become a little less relevant and then maybe not important, or just relative to where you are. But there's no reason you still can't get out there and enjoy being a part of that. And running is a great community, and track and field too. I mean, I know we got some stuff canceled here, but there are masters championships and things like that for people in the
Yeah.
world. So I think it's important that we keep being a part of that community despite, slowing down or whatnot.
Yeah. 100%.
So transition in there, and both of us have this as a big part of our life, but we're not just runners, we're involved in the community as coaches as well. So tell me a little bit about why you got into coaching and what keeps you going there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think like when I studied sport and exercise science and then I started in the fitness field after that for a few years, I don't think it was, I never thought about coaching. Like that was never part of my major, which some people think when I tell them even here, they're like, okay, you studied, to become, and I'm like, well, actually, I didn't think about coaching at all until after I graduated, honestly. And I helped out with a local high school, Elizabethtown High School, my first job, just volunteered 2 days a week. And then it wasn't until I moved to Philadelphia that like I realized I just missed the energy. I missed everything about it. I missed just the teammates and everything. And so I guess for me, the way I saw it was like I still wanted to be involved in that in some capacity. And so it wasn't shortly after that that I was thinking about like careers and things. And I was like, wow, there are people that do this full time. And I want to try to figure out how to do that. And the road there, I think, was a little bit longer, as you and I discussed back then, to get to this point. But I still remember getting the call here at Houghton after my GA. I was standing in my backyard and like they called and said that I got the job, and I was just like, there was a joy that overcame me that was like, wow, I get to do this now full time. And I mean, 6 years later, I still feel great about that. And so I always say like I want to give my team the experience that I had in college, which, as you know, was awesome. And we still keep in touch with our teammates regularly every day on different text threads, which is fantastic. And so like when we had our last team meeting and devotional before we left, and unlike you, there wasn't much uncertainty with our season. It was done, at that point. Like we're a little bit shorter than you for the outdoor season, so there was no coming back. And there was just like 10 or 15 people in the room that wanted to come up and talk and just talk to the seniors and tell them what they meant to them. And that was just an awesome meeting for us. It was emotional. It's a meeting I'll remember a lot. And as I sit here now, that was a big just validation that like, wow, this is awesome. This is great. Like these kids are going to keep in touch. They're going to be back. They're going to be hanging out, and we lose 10 or 12 seniors. And I have no doubt that group will be doing things at each other's weddings and stuff. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. 10 years now, I think I've been coaching college. So it's been good.
Very cool. Very cool. You've had quite a journey there, and I think it's good for everybody to realize that it's not right off the bat. You went through some part-time jobs and some volunteering jobs and did the GA experience, things like
Well, at one
that.
point it was like I was working full time in Philly in the fitness industry, and I was coaching. I was a head cross country coach at Rosemont College, starting that program part time. And so I knew I needed to get a master's to become a full time coach. And so it was like, well, how is this going to happen? Because I can't quit my full time job, and if I quit my part time coaching job, then I lose my experience. And so God opened up a door at Messiah with that GA program that like really made all the difference and allowing me to do that. And so everyone's got a different way of getting there, but for me, yeah, that was really kind of yeah, that's kind of how it happened. So
Very cool. So I like that you mentioned being at Messiah here. And my next question for you was going to be about that time you had here in Mechanicsburg. And we're always looking at things around school, and you lived kind of close to the high school when you were here. So when you were living in Mechanicsburg, what was your favorite place to run, your favorite loop or things like that, or anything you could share with us about the local running here in Mechanicsburg from your time?
yeah, so I lived, I don't know, maybe it took me less than a mile to jog to the high school, maybe half a mile. And I'd go by there a lot. I think I'm gonna misremember a few of the roads. Oddly enough, I was thinking about this and I was like, I can't remember some of the names. But you and I were training for Boston, one of those years, and then the next year we were training for some pretty heavy track races. And so I had this 15-mile loop that I do almost every week, the same loop. Which now living in Houghton, where the running isn't quite as good as it is in Mechanicsburg, I'll just say that. I'm like, why did I do that same loop every week when I had like all these networks? But I did it. So I'd go out Williams Grove or go out through town by the high school, and I'd turn somewhere in there to kind of get to like Epley.
Yep. We
And,
run Epley all the time.
in that area. So yeah, so this is nothing crazy, but I mean, I went a bit further out, and I'd somehow get to like Speedway and some of those roads back there. And again, I misremember the name, but there was a whole different. I mean, there's like a million ways you could have turned to get onto different back roads, and there's just not much out there. Just some nice farmhouses, some just a lot of woods and things like that. That was really cool to sort of get out of Mechanicsburg. So that was my favorite as a GA, that sort of being out in that area, which sounds like you guys probably go to a lot. At Messiah, I think like going out Alpat to Chestnut Grove was kind of like, it was a little hillier out there, connecting with Filey's and some of those roads. That was a great, I have a lot of memories out there. And then finally, I'll just say McCormick. I mean, I didn't run as much when I was there, but if I'd ran from Messiah when I was a GA, going out McCormick, and even just doing an out and back was awesome, just because that road is beautiful and dynamic, and
it is a beautiful road.
The mansions on the side of the hill by the river, and just
yeah.
You didn't make it out to McCormick ever? You probably don't take the team.
Since I'm not over at Messiah all the time, I only hit it. We do McCormick sometimes in the summer with the cross country kids. We go park down at Lower Allen Park and
right.
get back on McCormick or things like that. Epley's kind of our out and back road that we use a lot. But running from the high school in a big group, it's a little bit tougher. You and I out on our own can cover a lot more ground.
Did they ever go up to? Do you ever take them to the church 3K gravel path? Did they ever go up there? It's pretty cool. That's not all that far, I guess, from the school. No.
I'm trying to think. Maybe our kids on the team will have to chime in there that if they ever run there on their own. I haven't done that run a ton with them.
Okay, because you just keep on Williams Grove, right, and get to the church and the loop. Or my
Yeah, it's a little bit far for a single run. We've met there a couple times. We did a couple runs there leading up to mid-pens and districts there last fall. And I think we met there maybe once or twice over the summer, but it's that run's probably just to get to the church from the high school is about 3-ish miles. And we've got some kids ramping up a mile that they could get
tough.
Yeah.
Get back is tough. Well, I'll say this: my favorite workout while being there. We had left from Messiah from this run, so not as relevant for your high school kids. But was when we did that half marathon. We decided to do a half marathon, Brian and I, in preparation for Boston, and we were going to do a race, I think, but we decided not to go, or it got canceled.
I think it got canceled in the snow.
Okay, well, we decided on that Sunday just to do our own half marathon. We're just going to go at marathon pace, so 5:50s was the goal. And we went out Stumpstown, I think, to Williams Grove, and we did just those same roads I'm talking about, and somehow came in Epley and ended up around Fisher and that neighborhood, and we ended at that what's that neighborhood?
Canterbury.
And we hit it, and you PR'd through half marathon for your half marathon in that run, and we ended up running 1:16 or something just in the training run, and that was kind of hobbled back to campus after that. But that was a fun, sunny, maybe cold, but sunny.
It was a nice day. I think that's probably a good reminder for where we're at right now with everything getting canceled, that you can still go out and run hard and push yourselves and find ways to get those experiences. And he's right. I did PR that day kind of unexpectedly and great experience.
We just kept awesome.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. So my next question for you is, what's something about you that would surprise people to know?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say something that other people seem surprised by, although I don't think it's gonna sound that surprising, or it's not gonna be like, oh my gosh. But like, I guess up in the office and around here, like maybe just I think it's just simply because I run a lot and I work out a lot, and like that every now and then, I probably like to have pop a little too much. Um, than I should. However, like I'll have these mini cans of ginger ale or something like that, and people will see it up in the office and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you drink pop?" Like with this, jaw drop, and it's like, yeah, a little bit of
I should
pop. Like,
I should put a disclaimer in here that pop is what you all call soda around here, but
oh, I
pop's really the right name for it. So
figured I'd say it the right way, but it's like, but several times, like not just once, like several times, people have been like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe," like I eat like beans and rice and lettuce all day, right? Like, I mean, I'm a pretty healthy guy, but when you run so much and lift so much and have fun with that, like you got to have a few of those sort of guilty nutritional things. And I'm not justifying pop, but I like it. And
you know,
and so I don't know,
right.
surprising or not, that it seems to surprise other people. And I even had one person one time at small group tell me, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you drink coffee. Like coffee is terrible for you or something," which I don't think is true at all for a couple of cups. And your wife could comment on that if she wanted to. But anyway, so that's the one thing I thought, at least reactions from other people of something I've not that crazy, but the reactions are funny. So now I'm so
It is.
conscious. I walk around the office and I'm like, I can't keep anything in the fridge in the kitchenette because it's all the way down the hall. So I keep it in my office so that nobody has to see me walk down with pop and get comments. So
Well, keep enjoying it. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. It's not.
but yeah, here and there, so it's fun. But yeah,
All right. Okay, and then I guess the last one is I want to give some people an opportunity. And in full disclosure, Pat got these questions ahead of time, so he had a chance to kind of look over things, but he didn't tell me what he was going to say. So this last one for you, Pat, is what's one question you would ask back to me if you were doing the interviewing today?
yeah, I guess my one track mind of running. We'll stick on that topic. But you coached at Messiah for what was it, 12 years, 13 years,
12 plus years, yeah.
and then you've been at Mechanicsburg now. I guess this would be your
Yep,
third season coming up here.
yep.
Um, so I mean, I guess I'm just curious in the differences. I mean, obviously there's going to be a difference between training. Let's just talk specifically distance runners, high school distance runners generally, and maybe D3 distance runners, or sometimes maybe there's not all that much of a difference. So my question is, what have been some of the biggest differences there, coaching those two groups, and maybe you have sort of a favorite workout, college or not, that you just get excited when you're like, we're doing this workout today, and it's like, I don't know, could be whatever, but I'm curious as to what you would say for that.
That's a great question. So, I'll start kind of backwards here. In terms of workouts, I love the threshold workouts, and I think I love those as an athlete. In my own running, those are the types of workouts that I would get really excited for. It was hard for me to get excited about track intervals all the time, um, and I did them, and I came to love some of them. But if I showed up at practice and you said 1,000 repeats, that was way less exciting for me than if you said, let's go run a 20-minute threshold or something like that. So I think as an athlete, I love those. I think it paid off huge when we were writing those workouts for the college kids, and we really started using those a lot. And it's something that I've kept as a staple with our high school kids. In fact, I was just getting the workouts ready for this week, and we're throwing in some thresholds real early in the week to keep fighting, and texting back and forth with one of the athletes here, and those are really the staple for me. I think we can vary those up, we can extend those distances, we can get out in different places and do them. They're great for times like this where we're not necessarily meeting on the track, and
Right.
and those were some of my favorites, and I think they still are. And I think that they build a lot of strength, and they build a lot of endurance and a lot of mental fortitude at the same time. When you're out there on your third, fourth, fifth mile of a threshold run and you're just cruising along, you got to be able to push yourself and hold on to that without um, wavering too much on either side of that pace. So I think it really teaches you how to train yourself to run evenly and all that kind of stuff. So I'd say thresholds. I do one of the workouts that I brought over from Messiah to the Mechanicsburg group was McCormick out and back. Talking about McCormick, we do it out on Epley now.
Okay.
We did it last fall, and we did it I think a couple of times, and I really love it. For me, that was always one of the tune-up race workouts that, you know, if I could hit a certain distance, a certain pace on that workout, I knew I was fit. I knew I was ready. And Epley is a great place to do that because it just goes, and we get kind of like McCormick used to, not used to, still does. McCormick ends and kind of hits the tee. Epley does the same thing, and it's kind of that challenge of, can you get to the tee? Where can you get to this time? But
Yeah.
that out and back workout I think is awesome. Some of the differences, you know, maybe not as much as some people would think. I really, one of the messages I'm trying to send to some of the high school kids here is, you can go run in college. Not everybody out there is running 100-mile weeks or flying across the country every week for a race. You know, there are those kids that get that opportunity, and certainly I want some of you to be pushing towards that. But almost anybody, depending on where you go to school, if you pick the right school, there's a spot on a team for you. One of the things I loved about Messiah was, ironically, you know, we were never recruiting your state champs and things like that. If we got a kid in who was a state medalist, that was a big deal for us. But taking kids who maybe weren't the studs, but watching them grow and develop into awesome athletes. I mean, we're talking. Some of you shared yesterday that was watching this wedding on Friday night. It was Ben Schott's wedding. Ben Schott was a national champion, and he was good in high school, but he wasn't awesome. You know, he wasn't the greatest high school athlete there was. And so, you know, you're talking about kids like that went on and got a chance to then run at nationals and national champions and All-Americans. I mean, we know a whole bunch of people. I mean, we talk about one of the guys that I'm hoping to get on here at one point is Pat Roach, who, you know, is a sprinter in high school who ends up being a national runner-up in the 800 and running the Olympic trials. And so I think the thing for me is really that I want to run the Mechanicsburg program kind of like a college program, you know, and I think we get more variety on the team. I think we get a bigger range of athlete out at the high school level, and I think that's great. But I think especially for so many of these young kids, it's really interesting, you know, being here now a few years and getting to see not a class fully go through, but getting to see kids develop from freshman, sophomore year to junior and seniors, is getting to watch the development. Kids that would have started off their time, maybe not sure what they wanted, or those kids that have that big breakthrough, you know, that all of a sudden one year to the next, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is how fast I'm running. And not that that's different than college, but I think you see it a little bit more at the high school level because the inexperience, the youth, the physical growth development that some of you go through here in this time, I think it's really fun to watch. And I mean, I miss Messiah. I loved coaching there. I can't deny that. But I think being at the high school level, there's a purity to it that some of these kids are just out and enjoying it. But then there's some similarities. I mean, you know, we had some weird stuff happen at Messiah and some kids and some weird traditions and things. And all of a sudden this fall, our boys cross country team, shout out to you guys. You found that weird chair on the side of the road that all of a sudden became our water cooler chair, tracking at every meet we went to and all painted and stuff. And I think the cool thing there is that's what runners do. That's not a unique thing to us. I think it's cool, but you know, we would do weird stuff like that at Messiah, and you have your traditions and your things. So I think that's one of the really cool parts for me is being able to look at a group of high school kids and say, you can be like a college team. You're runners. It's not just something that you're doing here, and getting to see kids who are really buying into it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, anything else that you want to tell our audience, or any advice or thoughts for them before we head out here?
Yeah, I guess just kind of branching off what you said, maybe even if some of your high school athletes are listening from this perspective, like I think you're spot on. Like, I mean, I think I would never venture to say this, like for sure, just some of the best kids we've had were kids from kind of humble high school beginnings, didn't do a ton of mileage. I don't want to say they weren't well trained, just, they had a lot of gas left in the tank and they just took those chunks off even in college, you know what I mean? And had a lot to give. And so I've taken some chances on some kids recruiting wise that probably didn't get a lot of looks. And even if they weren't some of our top kids, they still were able to improve. They still had kids cheering on the corners of the track for them as they were running a 3,000 or 5,000 or something, just hoping they'd PR. So that doesn't change. That doesn't change in college. And then I guess the one piece of advice I give for any just runners, whether high school or college listening out there, would be like, there's no training substitute for mental fortitude and just high motivation. As I have a couple seniors graduating now who I'll just greatly miss, who are just steady competitors, who I knew what they were going to give me as soon as they stepped the line because they were just tough. And I could give them a whole bunch of different types of training, but they were always going to race well because it's just who they were. So there's no special workout. There's obviously great training that can be given, but I mean, for kids who can race really well, like, there's nothing aside from being focused and ready to do that on race day. So, yeah, for all of you thinking about your seasons, hopefully maybe you get to finish the spring, but maybe thinking all the way to the fall, a lot of time for reflection and stuff. That's a good thing to think about. So, but yeah, thanks for having me. And
Thanks
it's
for
been
being on,
awesome.
man.
I'll be excited to listen to the next ones. Hope you get Roach on there and some of those other guys. But yeah.
Sounds good. Hey, have a good one. Tell everybody I said hello up there.
Hey, you too. Bye.
Yeah.